Do you want us to give it just a couple more minutes? Welcome, everybody. We're presenting tonight on the School of Aeronautics and Astronautics. My name is Tyson McFall-Wancat. I'm a senior academic advisor, and I've got two other advisors with me. So Anna, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
I'm Anna Rainwater, and I'm one of the academic advisors.
And then Jalen.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jalen Jenks, and I'm also one of the AAE academic advisors.
So the School of Aeronautics and Astronautics has just over 1,000 undergraduate students, and that's of course sophomore through senior, and then just over 600 graduate students, which includes master's and PhD students. And we just got new rankings for Purdue from the U.S. News and World Report 2022 rankings. We are the #4 undergraduate program for aero and astroengineering, so that's up from last year. Our graduate program is #6. And then the rankings on the bottom are for Purdue as a whole. So best public university that pays off the most and most innovative school rankings. And so we are known as the cradle of astronauts. And so can anyone say in the chat a guess of how many astronauts Purdue as a whole has created or graduated? And Anna and Jalen are going to be monitoring the chat tonight so they can tell me when we've got some good guesses.
I think I've seen a couple right answers. Oh, we're seeing some more.
All right. So it is 26. So Purdue as a whole has graduated 26 astronauts. Now, how many of those have come from AAE?
Got a lot of 15s.
All right, close. So 17. So to be fair, we've added a couple this summer, so that is a little tough. And so pop quiz, who is this gentleman?
The crowd thinks it's Neil Armstrong.
That is correct. So of course, first man on the moon, and our building is named after him. He got his bachelor's in 1955. Here's one that's a little more difficult. So this is from this past summer.
We've got Beth Moses as a guess.
That is correct. And something unique here, Beth Moses is the first female commercial astronaut. So commercial astronaut meaning that she did not go up with a government-funded organization like NASA. She went up with Virgin Galactic. So she's known as a commercial astronaut. The first time she went up was in February of 2019. She did go up again this past summer. And who is this gentleman here? The older gentleman, not the younger little dude there. This one's a little harder.
We've got Buzz, Gene Cernan.
So this is actually Charles Walker. And he was the first industrial payload specialist. And so he worked for McDonnell Douglas. And he, again, did not work and get paid for by NASA. He worked for McDonnell Douglas, and so he was an industrial payload specialist. So he went up with NASA, but he was not an employee of NASA. So again, a little bit of a different way to be an astronaut. This one you guys probably saw in the news.
No guesses so far.
Trisha Bandla, she is another commercial astronaut, and she graduated with her bachelor's in 2011. And she went up in July with Beth Moses, also with Virgin Galactic. So here's a list of all of our astronauts there. But of course, you don't have to become an astronaut if you go into AAE. There are lots of different things that you can do. So in this box here are some actual job titles that our students have gotten right after getting their bachelor's. So you can see there computer vision engineer, process and launch engineer, satellite intelligence analyst, even mechanical engineer, because there's a lot of overlap between mechanical and aeronautics and astronautical engineering. There's also a lot of different companies that you can go into. These are just some of the more well-known ones, but there's thousands of companies across the world that are hiring our alumni. So what does it take to get there? So it's 4 years and 130 credits to earn your Bachelor of Science in Aeronautical and Astronautical Engineering. And so is Christos Levy here? If you are, please speak up. I don't know if he's here. He's one of our ambassadors. So I was going to have him talk about classes, but here's a list of some classes that you would take as a student in AAE. So you can see there a picture of some of our students working with one of our professors, Dr. Collicott, in making some of these satellites for our classes. Of course, another type of course that we have is a design, build, test course. This is from spring 2018. It's called the Big Friendly Flame. So this flame was designed, built, and tested, as the course name would suggest, by our students in a course that qualified for propulsion credit. And the students actually took this project to Burning Man in spring of 2018. So that was a very different type of class project, get some hands-on experience. Another class that we have is our Zero Gravity Flight Experiment class, AAE 418. And each semester there is a different project, a different goal. And the goal for the fall semester, fall of 2020, was to take Nickelodeon slime up into zero gravity and see what happens. So they paired up with a local school, and the second graders wanted to know what happens to Nickelodeon slime in zero gravity. And so the students created this device that you can see there in the picture with DAR, and it was able to not only transport, but they were able to monitor it. And then they had some measurement instruments in there as well. And so each semester, this class will create something that will go up into zero G. This all culminates in your senior design project. And in aeronautics and astronautics, we have two different types of senior design projects. There is the aircraft senior design and the spacecraft senior design, and you get to pick which one you'd like to take. This was from spring of 2020. This was the spacecraft senior design, and they were working on a human transportation system to and from Mars with all different types of vehicles, taxi vehicles, and landing tracks, refueling in space, all these different parts. And each group, each team designed one specific part, and then they had to make sure it all worked together. And then in fall of 2020, the aircraft senior design they formed up in groups to make different airplanes that could do vertical takeoff and landing, so VTOL, and then transition to fixed wing horizontal flight, and then hopefully land without crashing. Didn't always work out. But they were able to experiment and test and put their knowledge into building something for their senior design projects. We also have great faculty in our department, so I have to brag a little bit. Dr. Karen Murray, she won the Murphy Award, which is the highest teaching award for faculty at Purdue. She won that in this last year, and we have another professor in our department currently who's still teaching and has also won the award, Dr. Kathy Howell. So we have two award-winning faculty in our department. So, specialization areas. Some of you may have looked at our plan of study and may know that in the senior year, you get to pick a specialization area. And this does not mean that if you pick aerodynamics, that you would be, stuck in aerodynamics and those are the only types of jobs that you can apply for. It just means that in your senior year, you're going to take 3 classes in aerodynamics, while someone else might take 3 classes in autonomy and control. You're still going to graduate with the exact same degree. It's just you've gotten to take classes that are more interesting to you specifically. And so these are the 6 different areas. Aerodynamics is, of course, how a body moves through the air or a fluid. So looking at airplanes moving through the air. Astrodynamics is how we get things to go where we want them to go in space. So if we have a satellite and we need it to face Earth, how do we keep it facing Earth while it's in orbit? If we have solar panels, they need to be pointed towards the sun to be useful. So how do we make sure that they're still pointed towards the sun no matter where they're going? Propulsion is how we propel large hunks of metal into space or into the air or wherever we need them to go. Structures and materials is what are things made of? So are they made of sustainable products? Are they made of products that are going to last for more than one flight? Are they made of products that are heavy or light? All of these things go into structures and materials. Autonomy and control is how do we get something to fly without direct, constant human intervention? And aerospace system design is sort of bringing all of these together. So if you have one person designing the wheels and one person designing the brakes, does it all come together and fit together and work together? Are the brakes calibrated correctly for the weight of the entire plane or rocket? So all of those things have to come together. So these are the 6 areas that you would be able to choose from and specialize in. We also have a lot of student organizations, and you guys might recognize a lot of these organizations. They're not just for AAE students, but they are very popular with our students. And so you can join these even as a freshman. And so if you're still kind of undecided as to which specialization or which school you'd like to go into, joining a club and getting to know some of the current students can be really helpful. One of our most popular is probably PSP, so Purdue Space Program. They do a lot of work on propulsion out at Zucrow Labs, work on a lot of rockets. And then the Purdue Aerial Robotics team, they do a lot of competition work, as well as Purdue Orbital does a lot of work on competitions dealing with rovers on a Mars-like surface. Study abroad, you can actually fit a full term study abroad, a full semester into the AAE plan of study. Here are the countries listed where there are classes that are equal to AAE courses. What that means is you could go for a full semester studying abroad in one of these countries, and you could transfer back credits that would count directly for the AAE plan of study, which means that it may not delay your graduation. You may be able to stay right on track. Of course, you can go to any other country that you'd like through the study abroad program. Just means that you may be able to, only take gen eds and things like that, but you can still work with your advisor. And of course, you can go for the shorter term. You can go for a Maymester, spring break, winter break, things like that. And so study abroad, if that's one of your goals, does fit in with the AAE plan of study. We also have different opportunities for undergraduate research. AAE 497 is our general research course. So you can talk with a professor, you can approach them, even as a freshman. You can go up to them and say, hey, I really enjoy your class. I really like the research you're doing. I've seen and heard about you. I'd really like to get involved in research. And then you can do that either for pay, so hourly pay, or you can do it for credits. And those credits can be used towards your plan of study. There's also SURF, which this is the Summer Research Fellowship. And that will be something that you can apply for, usually starting in like January, February. And those are summer research experiences here on campus at Purdue with a professor. And then there's also vertically integrated projects, VIP, which most of you have heard about, I think. And you can get involved with those projects as well. They're actual classes, so you take them for credit. So if you're interested in getting involved in different types of research and getting credits for them, talk with your advisor about taking one of those classes in the spring and see how it might fit into your plan of study. Of course, job experience is really important. It's the whole reason you're here is to get a job. So internships, AAE does not require an internship to graduate, but we really, really encourage you to get as much experience as you can so that when you go for that full-time job search, you have that experience under your belt and you've got some networking ready to go. So internships are usually in the summer, but they can be in the fall or spring. And of course, you guys all know about the Center for Career Opportunities that has job search resources. And of course, industrial roundtables coming up, which is a great place to search for internships. And then there's lots of other networking events through clubs and classes as well. And internships allow you to try out a new company every summer. So you can try research, you can try working in industry, you can try private versus government. You can just kind of diversify. Co-ops are a little more focused. So co-ops are where you spend 3 to 5 full semesters at usually one company, sometimes two companies. And this allows you to alternate between work sessions and class sessions. And so by the end, you have 12 to 22 months of experience and you earn an academic certificate. The difference here is that with internships, you can switch companies, every summer if you want to. With a co-op, you usually stay with one or two companies. And so as you return, they give you more responsibility. They give you more leeway on being a project manager, maybe working on accounts. And if you go back more times, you're going to know what projects they're working on and be able to work on those longer term. So it can be a good way to get extended experience and more in-depth experience with one or two companies. Just different ways, different options to get experience. We also have a mentorship program in AAE. So we will match current students up with alumni. And then we'll also bring in panels throughout the year to talk with our students about how students who've recently graduated were able to find positions, what they're doing, and any industry tips that they have for students that are getting ready to graduate. And then some of you have heard about the combined bachelor's and master's in our program. You can earn your bachelor's and your master's in AAE in as little as 5 years total, because 12 credits are able to dual count for the bachelor's and the master's. So what that looks like is in your freshman through junior year, you're just working on your bachelor's degree, taking the regular courses. In your senior year, you can dual count 500 level classes. So 500 level classes are graduate level classes. And in your senior year, you can take up to 12 credits of 500 level classes that will count towards both the bachelor's and the master's. And so then during that senior year, you're finishing up your bachelor's and starting work on that master's degree. And then in that 5th year, you're working on finishing the master's degree. So this is a program that if you're interested, then we have that and you can apply in your junior year and start going to call outs to learn about that program. And so we do want to leave a good chunk of time for questions. So the chat is open. So just let us know what you would like to know. Anybody have questions? Anna, what kind of, oh, yep, go ahead.
Yep. All right. First question is, what type of GPA is required to get into AAE?
So for T2M, there are a couple different ways actually to T2M. There's the guaranteed first choice acceptance. And if you're not familiar with that, I would really encourage you to talk with your FYE advisor to learn if you qualify for that. And then there's the competitive first choice, which is where we look at your entire record. So a panel of our faculty actually sit down and look at every single T2M applicant's grades, the little paragraphs you have to write for your T2M application, they actually read those and they look at those. And they're not just looking at your grades from, this past semester, they're looking at your whole academic career. And so making sure that you're getting, high grades. The average GPA of our current students is a 3.4. And so just keep in mind that you want to get, mostly A's, maybe a few B's to keep yourself competitive for AAE.
Is it possible to double major in ME and AAE?
So it is not. So if you remember, I mentioned earlier that sometimes our graduates will actually have the title of mechanical engineer because there's some crossover. So because there's so much crossover and similarity between mechanical engineering and aero and astro, we don't allow you to double major. Now you can double major in aero and anything else, or in ME and anything else, but AAE and ME, you cannot double major because there is so much crossover.
When would you apply for the combined bachelor's and master's program?
The combined bachelor's and master's, you would apply for that in your junior year. And so it's not something you need to stress about right now. It's just good to know that we have that option. And then there will be call outs that you can attend during your late sophomore year, early junior year to learn about exactly what you need to do to apply.
Where can I get more information on co-ops?
There is an entire office dedicated to co-ops. It's called the Office of Professional Practice. So you can Google that and you can read about different versions of co-ops and testimonials from other students. You can also create a co-op account where you can upload your resume and then you can search for co-op openings, and companies can also search for you. And then once you're keyed in there, there's a co-op career fair that is specifically for co-ops in the spring semester, usually in February. And so it's totally possible to find a co-op at IR, but the career fair, the co-op fair in the spring is just for co-ops. So it's also a really good place to start looking.
Are there any downsides in terms of career opportunities by getting such a specific degree?
So our students have gone on to work in automotive industries like mechanical engineers. They've gone on to work in coding areas, or we even have a few students that have gone on to finance because they got management minors and they're really interested in finance. So I don't know that I would say it would limit you, but we do focus on things that fly. And so our students are, pretty focused on things that fly. If you're not quite sure what you'd like to do, then maybe ME would be a better choice for you. But it's the same, mathematical principles, the same ideas and theories that you're going to be learning. So you're still going to be an engineer, and you're going to be able to apply that in many different ways. But we have these info sessions so you can kind of get an idea for each of the engineering disciplines. So talk with students at all the events, go to club meetings and talk with current students and kind of see, why they picked AE, why they picked ME. But I don't think I'd say it would limit you. It's just different.
Do you know how programs such as co-op or study abroad work while also a part of ROTC?
Yeah, so ROTC, depending on which flavor of ROTC, it can take you 5 years to get your bachelor's. And that's because the Air Force ROTC, for example, you're required to take 5 credits each semester that are not, major related. And so that's 5 credits that you're not using towards your major. So it can lengthen your time to degree overall. That doesn't mean that you can't study abroad. It doesn't mean that you can't do a co-op. It just means that you would work with your CO or your XO to make sure that you're available to leave the country at that time, or make sure that you're available to go work for certain companies. So I have students that are doing that, right now. The study abroad is usually less important because a lot of times you go abroad with ROTC anyway. But the co-op is something that our students have done before that are also ROTC. So I would say If those are goals of yours, just be sure to let your advisor know as soon as you get into your professional program.
Does the 4 years it takes to receive a bachelor's in AAE include our FYE classes they're currently taking?
Yes, it does. Yes. So 5 years total, or I'm sorry, 4 years total. And that is including the FYE year. So the year that you're currently in would be year 1. And then if you got into AAE, that would be sophomore through senior year. And those would be your 4 years total to get your degree. And so that 130 credits includes the FYE curriculum numbers.
What kinds of minors can go with AAE?
So you can get a minor in anything you want. So I always tell students a minor is not required. And a reason to get a minor would be you have a passion for something and you just want to take those classes anyway. Or you've talked with companies, you've talked with representatives, and they've said, hey, we're really looking for people with X skills. And so it could be coding, or it could be extra math skills, or business skills. So any minor, you can take any minor. It just depends on what your interests are. So I have students in management, in economics, ECE, computer science, math is a popular one, physics. I've also got some histories, philosophies. So, really it's whatever you want, but you don't have to get a minor if you don't want to.
I have a question.
Yeah, who is this?
It's me. So I am going to, or at least I want to go into a career in aerospace engineering, but I'm not sure if a degree in aerospace engineering is the best course of action. What would you say to people like me who don't care so much about their degree as they do about what career type they're in?
So if you look through, if you talk to people in the industry, like if you go to IR and ask people, what's your degree and what's your job, I bet a bunch of them are not in careers that are, necessarily tied to their degree. That's pretty normal. But, you don't have to get an aerospace degree to work in aerospace. Like I said, it's an engineering degree, so there's going to be some crossover in, the theories and the methods of engineering as a whole. So I would recommend that talking to companies at IR, talking to companies at networking events, that's going to be a really great way to gauge what those companies are looking for. And if you can't get to talk to someone like an actual person, you can go on LinkedIn, you can go on their websites, look at their job postings and see what kind of applicants they're looking for. That can be really helpful.
Thank you.
There have been a handful of questions about if this presentation will be available later. So online, I guess.
I believe they're going to be recording one of these presentations. I don't know that they recorded this one, but there will be one that will be recorded and available later.
This one is actually recorded.
Oh, okay, great.
Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I covered all of them. There's a lot of questions in there. There were a handful of questions about the T2M process. So if you could just go over that real quick.
Yeah, so the T2M process is actually run through the first year engineering program. So any questions about how that process is going to work or deadlines and things like that, talk with your current FYE advisor, because we don't actually know that process.
There is a question about an aerospace-based Russian language program and if that's still offered.
I mean, we offer Russian at Purdue. I'm not sure what program they're referring to, but we do offer Russian at Purdue.
I think that's all the questions, unless I missed one.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so that the TA can, do what they need to do. If you have more questions, you can keep asking them in the chat.
Okay, can everyone see the QR code? All you need to do is just to scan it and log in. If you have any issues, just put your name in the chat. If you cannot log in, just put your name in the chat. Your name, Purdue Career account in the chat. We'll record that. You're free to leave after you scan the QR code or you put your information in the chat.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks, Grant.
So I do see a question about extra coursework for the senior year if you do the BSMS program. So there's no extra coursework. You're able to dual count. So you're basically sharing credits. So the credits that you do towards your bachelor's degree, you can share them towards the master's. So it's not extra work. It does mean that you have to do graduate level classes instead of undergraduate level in order for those to count. But to be fair, most of our students will take a graduate level class or two anyway, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's like super hard. It's just, taught in a different way. Usually a lot more reading and some critical thinking.
asked a question in the chat, but it seems like it was looked over. The question I have is how competitive in terms of acceptance rate is AAE, and is that going to change this year because of the size of the fledgling class?
Whoever just talked, we could not understand. So if you could put that in the chat, that would be great. I do see a question about what percentage of graduates have a job when they leave. So our percentage of job placement for 2020, this was for May 2020 graduates, was 91%. We won't have the 2021 data for a little bit. And then there's another question that says, would co-op lengthen the time required for the bachelor's? Yes, usually it does, because if you're not on campus taking classes, if you're off campus working for a semester, then those classes just get pushed back a semester. So it does take a little bit longer, but you are gaining that really good experience. And then another question, roughly how competitive is AAE? So we don't keep track of acceptance rates or, things like that, because it changes every semester. It really does. So all we can tell you to do is do the best that you can in your classes. So use SI, go to office hours, use all the resources that are available to you, do the best that you can, and get those really good grades to give you the best option. And then there was another question. There was more. Anna, do you see this Russian question?
I didn't see it come in, but let me scroll up real quick. I mean, I personally have not heard of anything.
I know that like one year, I think 6 years ago, there was a Russian for space class, but I think it was a one-off. So yeah, it might have been that class like 5 or 6 years ago that was aerospace terminology. But
Okay, I found it. So it said about the Russian language class, a previous doctorate student told me that there was a class that was Russian with the aerospace focus. So yeah, I think that was what you were just talking about.
yeah, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, maybe there was a class that focused on aerospace terminology specifically. I don't know that it's been offered since then. It's possible that it could be in the future. The way that college classes work is if a professor wants to teach something, they will create a class and see how popular it is. And if it's popular, they'll keep teaching it. If it's not popular, then, they usually just kind of let it die. Will there be classes that focus on pressurization and things like that? Like cabin pressurization, or like there's a lot of ways we could go. Okay, so like cabins. So I mean, you're going to take some aerospace design classes that the project could be focusing on a space habitat, or it could be focusing on cabin pressure in an airplane. It just depends on the project and the goal of that project. But you're going to learn about aerodynamics, and you're going to learn about what it takes to keep people alive inside of a cabin, because whether you work for an airline or for NASA, you want to keep the people inside the capsule alive. So yeah, it's definitely something you're going to learn about. And then if you want to specifically do like in-depth research on that, because the classes can't go in depth on everything, you could always get involved in research with someone who's more focused on that type of topic. All right, so I think we're good to go. So thank you guys very much. Thanks, Suji.
Thank you.